It's 4:30 on November 29th, Friday, and we're looking at weekend weather for British Columbia and having a peek at some of the stories going around right now in North America. There's not too much, but there is a big snowstorm happening in New York, for example, right now. A lot of the East is getting into this one, but particularly there's a extreme snowfall happening at Watertown. We'll have a look at that as we go. We got snow. Round 2 is kind of making its way into BC almost seamlessly. It's snowing real hard here in Wells right now, but I know it's not everywhere else, but it's snowing real hard here. I don't know if we'll catch much of a break before the next pulse comes in. We'll look at all the models and try to figure out what's going to happen next this weekend. We do know that a big warm front will come into BC this week coming, and it will warm up nicely for us. It's not so lucky for you people in the prairies. It will come to you eventually, but we get her first while you suffer a little longer in the extreme cold. Okay, that's what I got to say. Caribou weather dude, YouTube, let's go! There it is. This is bad news.
My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen.
Get on!
Wow. I'll watch the video later.
Water.
They dry mopping this. Having a look on radar right now, there's this line kind of near Prince George, and some of the heavy snow falling in that line right now. And you can see it looks like it's kind of convective, that line, the way it's behaving. So some heavy snowfall happening in there right now. Along that 16 corridor, maybe through Vanderhoof, you'd see some of that. A little bit north of you for a lot of it, north of Prince George, kind of up in the heart where it's been snowing a lot. Willow River, Upper St. Clair, you're getting a lot. People tell me McBride hasn't seen almost anything for snow over the last 2 days. Someone said it was sunny there yesterday while it was snowing nonstop here. So that gives us a good clue about the cold front that was sitting there and how the snow just really couldn't seem to bust on through. And there's snowfall warnings up here, and I'm still very interested to see what's going to happen with that cold front. It's possible. Sometimes it is minus 20 and snows. That can happen if warm enough air is pushing in and can make its way in a little ways. However, generally we know that cold air doesn't carry precipitation. So there's an interaction here that's been kind of a mystery over the last bunch of days. And we've seen more or less how it's played out. The GFS model has been basically wrong, and ECMWF has been basically right. Snowing really hard in NASCO right now, just on West Fraser's side as well. Snowing really hard here in Wells and Barkerville right now, likely in Horsefly getting a little bit, maybe some down around the Williams Lake area. So some slippery roads out there still tonight. Be very, very aware of that. If you catch into one of these, you might not be seeing snow right now, and you catch into one of these bands, it's going to be coming down very, very hard. That's a very strong snow signal. Well, what else is going on right now? I guess we got a special weather statement down here in New York State at Plymouth and Sherburne, Cortland, and whatnot. But this has been the area to watch up by Watertown, where we get this lake effect snow coming in, and we could see maybe 6 feet of snowfall there. Is that possible? Well, yeah, and I'll tell you why. We've seen that over in Buffalo a number of times. And what happens is when that's happening, is the water here is really warm. I don't know what the temperature is, but we'll give it a representative number. We'll say it's 12 degrees or something right now, right? So that water's 12°C, but then you have this cold air that's coming on in, and what happens is the interaction between the warm water and the cold air, because the warm water takes a lot longer to cool off than air does, so it holds the temperature a lot longer. It takes longer for the Great Lakes to cool down enough to become iced, right? So this cold air is coming down, makes a whole bunch of fog, picks up a bunch of this moisture, and then it immediately just deposited itself in Buffalo. We've seen that 2 times over the last decade where they had major snowfalls in Buffalo. So that same kind of thing is going on right now, more or less in the Watertown area at the very east end of Lake Ontario, where, again, you have warm water. We'd say it's 10 degrees or 15 degrees. I don't know. I could look here and find out what the temperature is, but I don't care that much. We know that it's a lot warmer than the air that's pushing on through, and we know that's what's helping pick up all this moisture, and it's just going straight over here and then falling almost immediately as soon as it can. It can't stay in the air very long. It's too cold out there, so it just picks it up and then drops it right away, and that's why you're going to see some big-time snowfall totals there. Live Storm Chasers reporting that at Ripley, New York, there's people outside of their cars walking around. I hear word that there's highways shut down through Erie and places like that. Justin had a bunch of details on here from Weather Center in Manitoba. He's been watching. So big-time squalls. It's so bad people are stranded out there walking on the highway. Highways between Erie and Dunkirk are closed. Right, thunder snow associated with heavy snow activity near Portland, New York. So that was that one we looked at. That's in the hash marks there. So a terrible situation to be stuck out in, right? And that's why you want to have vehicles that are always prepared for the worst case scenario, that you aren't getting stuck out there. Still a heavy deck of cloud down there in southern BC. So it's been surprising to me seeing that a bunch of times, how little precip they've had down there. But that's what's going on. And most of that precip there, all across the Prince George region, there's a heavy deck of cloud, and maybe it's not snowing everywhere as we saw, but it's snowing in a lot of those places, of course, and then up the coastline and whatnot. So that's more or less our story right now. Maybe you just hit play for 1 minute You just get that impression of how it's more or less moving in, the motion in which it's taking, still sliding down, still meeting that cold air that's on the other side of the mountains there, and it really can't push past it. It's kind of going and stopping there. And so they're expecting snow to come on this side of it, and then maybe in some models saying, well, it could be a lot of snow. It could be 50 centimeters of snow in that Grand Prairie area up through Grand Cache and whatnot, all those lovely places. So, I really don't know if we're going to be seeing 20 or 50 centimeters. I just don't feel like I have a good answer for that for you people out there. Because, models are showing the snow making it over, and I'm like, well, if it's that cold, is it gonna? Well, yeah, it could. It could. Well, we'll look at tonight, and you can see that snow is really, really sitting there. As I said, it could come down as far as west, so you could see some rainfall on Vancouver Island. Again, not really the story. Could see a little snow as far south as Revelstoke, but it's really that terrace area that's taking her hard. That Highway 16 route, going to be some big snow up there for you guys in Smithers, right? And our temperature at that time of night, man, brutal if you're in Saskatoon, brutal if you're in Regina, brutal if you're in Fort McMurray. High level minus 23 is brutal, but I'll tell you, minus 19 is a whole hell of a lot better than minus 30. It definitely is. In Whitehorse up to 30, Dawson City 36 below. Ouch. More or less. Where we seen that snow stay is, it's going to more or less be all day Saturday in those areas. Are probably until you get into overnight Sunday, then you might see more of that coming up into the north further, maybe not just sitting in the mid part of the province, and maybe northern BC starting to get some real snow at that time. Again, 24 below at Fort Nelson. Can it snow in minus 24? Well, yeah, because this is pushing into that air mass. It's not an air mass delivering snow. It's the precipitation meeting a cold air mass and being forced to precipitate because of it. So we could see that happen. Of course, it can get really cold and still snow, but generally that's not the way that moisture works. It's not traveling in the cold. No, it's bumping up against it and going ouch. Or it's having a lake effect thing where the water's so warm that it's picking up all that moisture, scooping it up, and then just dropping it immediately as soon as it hits a contact that triggers it to fall. Sunday, wow, man, big time. So, here's our thing. Like, we're really looking at a lot of precip into the north this week, a lot of precip, and then maybe we're going to see some of that well across Canada at different times. We got some big time snow totals still expected through Manitoba, maybe on Tuesday. So we're kind of watching that. But again, it's the cold. Everything's I find that these are hard things to forecast for. But this has that cold lifting up a little bit. So ECMWF's got a better news for you guys in the southern part of the prairies. So that would lead me to believe that along those contacts, some really big snowfall can be triggered. That is entirely possible. So I'll be hoping for you that and of course that's at 2 a.m. So that is a huge warm up. That's 2 degrees above there in the Caribou on Wednesday. You're looking at 2 degrees above overnight. Like that would be, or in Prince George, northern BC. It might still be a little cooler than that here in Wells, but no, that means we're looking at some really, really warm days. We're looking at afternoons of 5, but in the sunlight, it's going to feel a lot better than that. That northern BC, and you can see still that high pressure sitting there, and it's really butting up against it, and that's deforming these isobars, and that's making for strong winds up through that area into Wednesday. So, this is a longer look out than I was really prepared to give you here, but this just gives you sort of a picture of where we're going. And we're back into a southwest Pacific flow. We're back into some possible storms. We're back into some atmospheric rivers, and we've defeated the cold more or less, most of us in BC, not for you in the very, very far north. So we'll look at the big picture in Canada, and man, there's a lot to talk about. Let's start at the very north here. Some of this extreme cold warning has minus 50 wind chill values expected in Beaver Creek. If we go up to near Norman Wells here, the Yukon border, the mountains here, the Mackenzies, they're 50 below as well. Extreme cold wind chill values near 50 below. Man, that's nasty. Now, here's signs of our next round of our next storm. So that could start tonight. A low pressure system will approach the north coast on Friday as a ridge of high pressure builds over the BC interior. Strong southerly winds along coastal areas. Strong southerly winds along coastal areas, strong cold outflow winds through mainland inlets and valleys, heavy rain at coastal areas, and precipitation countering cold outflow winds, leading to heavy snow and a risk of freezing rain are possible as the system moves onshore. By Sunday, warmer temperatures and heavy rain could lead to rain on snow and possible flooding in low-lying areas. It's to note, though, BC River Forecast Center has no statements yet or no warnings, so there's not enough confidence in where and what things are going to happen, right? More rain on Tuesday and Wednesday. A winter storm watch, 25 to 40 centimeters up on the north coast. That includes Stewart, who's just seen a lot of snow. They accumulated 40 to 55 centimeters of snow, and they've had a little bit of a break in the snow today, maybe. And through Saturday, but another system will bring heavy snow starting Saturday evening with 25 to 40 centimeters. So, man, we were talking about will they get like a meter of snow possibly in the next week in Spatsizi? We were talking about that a number of days ago, and it appears that is entirely probable. There's a risk of freezing rain during the transition. The air will be, the surface will be cold, but the air will be warm. It'll be bringing rain in, and that rain will fall on the ground and freeze. 100 to 200 millimeters of rain approaching the central coast through Saturday night. Maybe an additional 180 to 120 millimeters of rainfall through Saturday night. So that's really impressive. Go just a little bit inland there to where Bella Coola is. They could be seeing 50 to 70 millimeters. Of course, when you start getting up into that pass there, you start going up Heckman Pass, it'll be very, very nasty. So I'm sure if you're in Bella Coola or you have plans to go to Bella Coola, you want to be very careful when you make those choices. Okay, so another round of heavy snow on Saturday afternoon. So this is the same warning, but continued more or less that we've had on for the bunch of days now, today, and then again on Saturday. Prince George, Stewart, Echaco, Lakes District, Bulkley Valley near the Caribou Mountains. That's here in Wells, Yellowhead, McGregor, Williston, Pine Pass, and Yellowhead Highway, Tetwan, Cache to the Alberta border. Of course, Fort St. James, Burns Lake, they could see 15 to 25 centimeters there, 10 to 15 centimeters additional on Saturday for most other places. Snow heavy at times is easing today as the weather system moves east. However, as we just looked at it's still snowing pretty hard in some places, so you want to still be heads up tonight, as the story is not exactly over in much of the north and central interior. Very quiet in the south, lucky for you. Over on the Alberta side, now we did have a warning for the Dawson Creek area, but that seems to have been dropped. So, I've been really interested because we got this very cold air here and very high pressure, and can that snow really push in? So there's no confidence, right? This could continue to Monday, 20 to 30 centimeters, but it could be as high as 50 centimeters. So that's them saying, like, we really don't fucking know what's going to happen. We know that it's going to make a push there. How well it can establish itself. It could establish itself at the high end and maybe beat some of that cold back a little bit or force its way in. But it could end up being even at the low end of 20 or less, maybe 30. We'll see. But be aware there if you're in the Grand Prairie area, all that areas east and northeast of Edmonton. And some extreme cold warnings continue. Luckily, we don't see that now for Saskatoon, but I'm sure it's not that much better there. But wind chill values of minus 40 expected there Friday night into Saturday morning. So tonight going to be very, very cold. We got 10 to 15 kilometer an hour winds that are going to be happening there. And on the Manitoba side, if you're over there where Justin is and Brandon, the same warning more or less continues for you. Over Ontario, we have our own warnings. That's all associated with the same storm that's bringing heavy snow to New York. 30 to 50 centimeters is possible. North of Nipigon, that's what I thought, on Lake Nipigon. So if you go down to the Sault Ste. Marie area, you're looking at maybe 20 centimeters there through Saturday night. Some lake effect snow up into Elliott Lake as well. 60 centimeters possible right off. So the same thing again. You got the warm water in Lake Superior. It's not warm by our standards, but it is, meteorologically speaking, picking up that moisture, carrying it in, dumping right there, and dumping hard. Just continuous. There's a nonstop mechanism there to deliver moisture. It starts right there and drops right there. That's more or less how it works. It's self-creating 20 centimeters inland, go up through Lake Huron, and start looking at some of these areas. Not quite in the Parry Sound area here. We're on the other side of Lake Huron. But nonetheless, if we go to the Parry Sound, they could be seeing 100 centimeters by Sunday afternoon, man. That's just crazy. A whole meter of snow possible there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more. Brandon Houck said places could get 6 feet of snow, and already we got that dialed in there for the Waterton area. So big time snow in Ontario right now. I know we're not an Ontario channel, but 75 centimeters. This is a pretty awesome story. And I see that there is even special weather statements now heading out through central Ontario to where my mom's house lives. I'm always like, I'm just going to make a quick video here, get down, do it in 10 minutes and see. And then as soon as I start talking, I'm like, man, too much to talk about. Some cold weather records, daily records set in Alberta yesterday, minus 30.8, minus 29.2, minus 29 in Wainwright, Vegreville, Esther, all seeing very, very cold, very, very cold weather. Other than that, we don't have much except for Ontario where they had some major snowfalls already. Echo Bay reporting 81 centimeters. Sault Ste. Marie area seeing getting 58 to 67 centimeters since Tuesday. So big time snow, man. Wow. That's really, really crazy. Walkerton seeing 26 centimeters. Baysville, maybe 50. Unbelievable. And our final place where we've seen some records broken, Saskatchewan, seeing some daily cold records broken, minus 33.8, minus 26.2. What about climate change, man? It's cold. What about... All right, let's address this real quickly. Here's what a lot of people noticed, and Joe Stover was talking about in our podcast last night. He said up in Churchill, Manitoba, you used to be able to set your watch to it, and you could, it would be a gradual cool down and a gradual warm up there, and that's not what happens anymore. You watch how this jet stream meanders up and down. This is a definite sign of climate change, because of course it's going to get cold in the north. There's no sun up there, and it gets very, very Arctic-like. Even in a climate change scenario, it would take a long time for the north to not be the north. Absolutely, right? So the north, but you have extra warm water here. So what does that do? Well, the warm is, yes, warm air does chase cold air. Heat follows cold. So when you have a bunch of heat, it's going to try to chase up to the cold, and it's going to make for strong deviations in the jet stream, and that's why we got a big warm-up coming next week into BC. I'm not complaining, man. I don't want that fucking brutal cold that's going on over there. I'm totally not interested in that at all. That's more or less our story, but you can see that cold air is probably coming to Eastern Canada after it departs from us. So a big warm-up coming into Western Canada. We'll see how many people get that, but sure, Alberta is for sure. Saskatchewan looking like it. Maybe even Manitoba will see some. So we'll have to watch over the next bunch of days. That's next week already, but we know that a warm-up is coming to Western Canada. We know that we got a jet stream that's doing its dives and bombs and up and down, weaving around. You got weekend plans. You better just notice, especially because there's been so much snow up there. Very, very high chance of avalanche up in the terrace area. Storm slabs are expected to be triggered, and that continues probably until Monday, but we got more snow coming, so expect those updates to probably be high for a long time. And for most other areas in the north, because we've been seeing that snow, such as here in Wells, we got considerable risk still. So if you're out there snowmobiling around today, you got to watch for reactive slabs due to new snow. I know you'll be careful. So we got a little bit of a warm front already pushing in there on Saturday, where you could see a little bit of risk of freezing rain, a little bit of snow down Vancouver Island, sure. But as you can see, most of that story is still focused on central BC. That's where we're probably going to see a bit of an atmospheric river coming into the north, maybe up in the Alaska Panhandle this week. Meteorologist Mark was saying there'll be snow across the northwest ranges in the BC coast. An above freezing layer will develop Saturday afternoon between 1,000 and 1,400 meters. Freezing rain possible below that 1,000 meter mark. 20 to 30 centimeters of snow expected, with a spillover snow across Hudson Bay Mountains. So good news for you in Smithers. Skiers, up to 15 millimeters of water equivalent, which could translate to 20 to 30 centimeters as well. Periods of snow on the southwest ranges with light accumulation. Freezing levels could rise to 1,000 meters across S2S and South Coast ranges. They could be rising to 1,400 meters over Vancouver Island on the weekend, which would be higher than most of the mountain peaks on Vancouver Island. Not all. I've been on a couple that are taller. BC interior, heavy snow across the North Rockies and Caribou, maybe 25 centimeters of snow on Saturday afternoon. A mid-level jet streak will bring extreme southwest ridgetop winds to the Caribou and southern sections of the North Rocky ranges on Saturday. We'll see, because it's been a while since we've had wind here of any kind, even when we've had all those windstorms hitting into BC. Even when areas like Williams Lake were getting a lot of wind, we were not getting much at all. So you can see the blue, that indicates snowfall. You can see the rain, a little bit of a weak trough there, just slamming right on in as that low pressure that's out there just kind of throws stuff at the coast. So you can see how a lot of that is pushing into the north coast. And here's a possibility of an atmospheric river sort of associated and behind it. So we're kind of watching that. But you can see that warm up by the time Monday comes. Still snowing maybe up in the Peace and on the Alberta side, maybe, of course, and maybe a little bit in the south end of Northwest Territories. That's possible. You can see the big plume of moisture available, and that's coming straight in. And that's going to be making for some. It's going to be a little while before southern BC has much to talk about. I'll tell you, you're going to be warm over the next bunch of days starting next week. It'll be much nicer than it's been, and eventually we're going to see some of these pressures, some of these lows slam into southern BC. So some of the thinking is on all models that maybe by next Friday. It's important to recognize that different models say different things, and the GFS has been particularly wrong about a lot of things lately. Not the big picture, but wrong about the small details. Nonetheless, we check this GFS and get kind of a picture, because maybe it provides us some clues. And you can see that cold air there in the Yukon territories, man, screaming cold coming in Saturday. Very, very cold into the prairies. Miserable northern BC, very, very cold. Just tolerable in southern BC, and then we're so close to that line here, like where we are in the Caribou. It's just over the mountains from us, yet we've managed to stay warmer this week than a lot of models show us. getting here in Wells, and that's great. And that's why I was saying we want the snow. We want the snow to come in, and it did, and that was great news. There's a bit of a warm up in it, so some thoughts are that it's going to push in the prairies, but different models don't look equally warm across the board. So we got time, but that's going to push east. And you are going to see some extreme cold come into eastern Canada, and that's partly what's behind some of the mess you're in right now. But it looks like eventually we get even Alberta warming up. It's going to be nicer. We'll see how long it takes for that cold air in the prairies to get beat back. If by the time we're at the 10th of December, it's really that cold still or not. But so there's different expectations of how that might pulse through. And here's the ECMWF model, and as you can see, this right now kind of is indicative of what it's going to look like in comparison to GFS all week. It's always had more snow on the go with the Canadian model and the ECMWF model. So some different ideas there, but that looks really impressive for big sections of Highway 16, big sections of Highway 97, definitely up and down the coast, maybe some even getting as far south as down to Whistler, but it's not really where we're expecting the show to be. And big time snow Saturday night in Prince George. There's that next pulse coming on in. And so we got some real different ideas, and this one is a lot nastier looking. It's more fun to look at. Much in the way that things have been the last bunch of days, it seems to be more closer to what we have been able to expect this season. If you've been paying attention, our podcast is being aired now in Northern BC on Rogers TV, and that's really, really awesome. But also now we're trying to get to some new radio stations to air us as well. If you're in Edmonton, send an email over to CIGSR or leave a comment and say, hey, I would watch the meteorological report. 6 feet of snow, that's what we're talking about in Waterton. 71 inches of snow possible in that Watertown region. That's incredible snowfall. And man, there's a lot of treacherous driving out there. That was up near Field earlier this week with this transport. I'm sure he's just hanging there over the edge, and that trucker's thinking, oh man, that's terrifying. Imogen Cookie Bailey, producer of our TV version, says orcas start wearing dead salmon hats again after ditching the trend for 37 years. That's the headline she's been waiting for. Well, that's what I got for today. If you are in the Caribou Prince George, you're on the Highway 16 corridor, watch out for snow, man. Watch out for snow. If you're in Saskatchewan, if you're in Alberta, watch out for that cold weather. We're really concerned about people's safety in the cold weather. If you're in Ontario, man, brace yourself. That storm is showing no signs of stopping. She's real angry out there. There you go. From Huntsville, Bracebridge, Penetango Stream there on out. Some definite, through Parry Sound, you can see that ribbon is just pounding in on you there. Owen Sound taking some snow right now. There's a better look at that big band. You can more or less see how that, what I was talking about, that lake effect, it's like you can see it's like basically probably self-creating right here. Moisture's kicking up and enough it gets into a cloud somewhere in this area, moves on in and says, no, I can't go any further. It's just a little too cold, and down she comes. Snowing pretty hard just outside the Sault Ste. Marie area. You can see more or less the same thing going on here. You can see this line of where the moisture is lifting off, and you can see how it's just lake affecting straight in. That's a lake effect snow. That is what that is called. Very beautiful examples. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Come back again, please, and consider leaving a donation to the channel, becoming a Patreon member or a channel member, just to help kick me in a little bit of income here. It sure helps. Christmas time's coming. I could use a little bit more in the pocket. Thanks to the people who have been donating lately. I really, really appreciate it. Makes a big difference to me. I had a nice donation yesterday, and it makes my day. It makes me feel like, oh, okay, that's what I'm getting. I'm not trying to make a business here. That's the thing. I'm open to making income. I want that to be what I'm doing, so that I can just focus on being the weatherman as many days as possible. However, not have to go out and odd job and do things. However, I'm not looking to make a business. I want this to be free for anybody. So you can't, you are already poor and you're already having trouble making ends meet. I don't want anything from you. Just you coming here and watching the videos is enough. You are welcome to do that, and I don't need anything from you. But if you got a business that's making business plans and decisions, and you're saying, oh, well, we better not do it that week because Joey says this, well, then maybe that's when you could think about rewarding the guy who's looking out for you here. I'm looking out for everybody from the top of the mountain here in Wells, BC, 3,135 feet above sea level. Yeah, that's the way she is. Snowing hard here. I can't wait to, we already had more than 10 to 15 centimeters come down here. It's coming down hard. It's going to continue. Gotta love it. Big snow year. That's what we need. BC needs it. Okay, that's the show for today. Bye now, everybody.